Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today is the 3rd of February 2021. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So new all-time high today for ETH, highest daily close in ETH's history, over 1500 here, as you can see, Eric Connor kind of posting about here, and it's funny, it didn't feel like an all-time high day, right? I think we had the celebrations when ETH went to its old all-time high, which was, 1420, around 1420 to 1440 kind of area. So we already kind of cleared that. So I guess at this point, it's like, we kind of knew we were going higher. We just kind of needed to calm down a bit, recharge, and continue back up. So yeah, really, really awesome to see that we're over 1500, which is always good. Hopefully we're still over 1500 by the time you watch this video. It's crypto, it can go back down pretty quickly. But it's a bit weird, right? Like, for those of you who have been around the ecosystem for a while, I mean, personally, I've been around since early 2017, and I was just thinking to myself before, we started, when I was first in it, it was around $10 or something like that, at the start of 2017, and then it kind of went up and up and up, and we peaked at like $1,400 on January 8th, I think, or something like that in 2018, right? So we obviously went like very, very, very high up very quickly. And, then we went down very quickly as well. So during 2018, we had the bear market. We went down to $80. Then in 2019, we continued up again, off this kind of bear market. And people thought the bear market was over. So ETH went to, I think, $360, $370 or something like that. And then, of course, it went back down. And it went back down to like the low hundreds. Then in 2020, we had like the early 2020, we started going up again. Everyone's like, okay, the bear market's over. We're good, fam, as they say. And then March happened, right? And COVID hit, and bam, we were back in the double-digit ETH. I think it was $90 ETH we bottomed at, so not 80, but around $90, right? And then after that, I think people were still feeling quite bullish, right? People were still feeling like the bear market for crypto was over, even though we had this COVID thing. Once the kind of initial shock passes, we would continue up, and we did. And 2020 was an amazing year, right? Not just for ETH, but for like different DeFi tokens and stuff like that. And it was a really, really amazing year, especially for DeFi growth too. So if you think about it, like you had 2017, which was euphoric. You had 2018, which was like absolutely depressing and brutal. And then you had 2019, which again was kind of like half euphoric, half really brutal. Then you had 2020 where we had like 1 month of kind of brutal bear, but the rest of it was like very euphoric. And now in 2021, we've obviously had like only 1 month, but it's been very euphoric so far. So I'm going to be curious to see where we go from here. But I think at this point, all of us have been around for a while, are just so used to this stuff, and we can manage our emotions much better now. I mean, back in 2017, I was chasing everything. I was chasing every pump. I was going into every ICO. I was doing all this stuff. And I didn't have much of a stash back then, to be fair. But I was just doing all the noob stuff. And then I learned, right? We all learned during kind of the bear markets. And now I think, for those who've been around for a while, we are better investors, better kind of traders, if that's your thing. I definitely am. Thankfully, I used to kind of just, I guess they call it ape into these days. I used to kind of ape into that. Ape into like all these different ICOs. And I'm sure a lot of you did that in 2017. It was like the thing to do. And then DeFi Summer came along and you'd ape into all these kind of Ponzi farms, I guess. And that was another thing to do. But at this point, I don't think the market's too frothy. This is an investment advice, but this doesn't feel like 2017, like the end of 2017 at all. I felt that for Doge the other day, and we saw what happened with Doge. That was typical. But we're not seeing like massive kind of media attention, massive mainstream attention on Ethereum and DeFi yet, right? We're not seeing that at all. And that's what we kind of had in 2017 was this massive attention on Ethereum and ICOs. And, in hindsight, spotting those top signals was quite obvious. But at the time, you get caught up in the mania and it's very hard to kind of spot these things. It's probably going to happen the same way this time. There's going to be a mania. People are going to get caught up. People are going to be making money or paper profits. Not, if you don't sell, it's not really, realized. And you'll get caught up in this kind of, I guess, loop of not knowing when to sell and keep, you might keep like lifting up your sell targets and stuff. And yes, you have to sell sometime. You can't just like keep it all in crypto. You have to take profits, if anything, just for your mental health as well. Unless, you have enough money where you don't have to take profits and you can live in crypto. If that's you, that's awesome. But most of us don't have that luxury. So at some point we have to sell. And don't feel bad for selling. Don't feel bad for selling too early. I think, selling too early can hurt, especially if you sell like way too early. But at the same time, you should have reasons for selling. Like, are you selling because you want to buy something new? Do you want to put a deposit down on a house, right? Do you want to buy a new car? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? At the end of the day, it's up to you and your individual circumstance. So yeah, don't compare yourself to others. Don't see what others are doing. People love to brag about their net worth on crypto Twitter and kind of like saying they're making all this money. Just ignore them. Really, there's no point comparing yourself to other people because their situation and their life has no bearing on yours, right? Just the fact that they're making all this money, or they're claiming to make all this money, has absolutely no bearing on your life. Right? It has nothing to do with you. So just ignore that kind of talk and do what's best for your own circumstance. And that's not financial advice. It's just general kind of like, I guess, it should be common sense, right? That, you worry about yourself, and those close to you first. You don't worry about random internet people, especially like random internet anon accounts that are kind of like quote unquote LARPing on Twitter about how much money they're making. That's one thing that I see a lot of noobs kind of fall into, and a lot of people message me about. And I just tell them the same thing. I like, just ignore these people. Don't try and chase them, right? Because it's just not healthy. And some of them are straight up just trying to get you to FOMO into things that they already bought, right? If they're shilling something, they've already bought it. Like, no one shills something before they've bought it. Like, let me tell you that much. So that's just another thing to keep in mind, especially when you see things happening as we progress through this bull market. There's going to be a lot of FOMO. You're going to feel a lot of FOMO, right? And usually that ends badly if you FOMO into something, from my experience. But again, totally up to you to do what you feel is best. So yeah. Anyway, enough price talk. Let's jump in a little bit here. So, well, I guess a little bit more price talk. I just wanted to quickly point out that now that we're at all-time high, I thought this stat was cool that shows 100% of all on-chain ETH holders are now in profit. So this stat, basically you can track from all the way back when we were like in the, I guess, low hundreds to now. Most people were out of the money back then. And as we progress, there's old holders that had ETH that were just sitting there kind of from the last bull market. People that bought more ETH this time. And once you're at all-time high, of course, everyone's in profit. So that was just a really cool stat to see, I thought. Another really, really cool thing, and I posted a tweet about this a few weeks ago, and I reposted it here now. Smart contracts on Ethereum are continuing to gobble up ETH. So what this chart shows is it shows the percentage of ETH in centralized exchanges and the percentage of ETH in smart contracts. Now you can see obviously in September of 2020 during DeFi summer, or at least before that, I think you can probably see the uptrend start in June, right? When the compound yield farming or liquidity mining kind of program started. But the growth really took off towards, I guess, the end of August, early September in 2020. But you can see that because ETH became such a productive asset within DeFi, people were taking it out of centralized exchanges, right? And putting it into smart contracts, which is what we want. We want people to go bankless, right? We want people to be using this stuff, using DeFi for the right reasons. And yes, they probably did it for speculative reasons, but that's fine. That's completely fine. I don't think that's a negative at all. It means that centralized exchanges are losing their grip on and their centralization around ETH supply. And that's, fallen to 13.5%, and ETH in smart contracts is up at almost 19%, which I thought was really cool. And this is in DeFi. This is also in the WETH smart contract, the wrapped Ether smart contract, which counts for a lot. This is also in, I think this should count ETH2 as well. This should also count cold storage smart contract wallets too, like Gnosis Safe. So that's even better, right? Because it doesn't have to be put to work in DeFi. It can be just in cold storage, but outside of exchanges, not in custody solutions, in actual like Gnosis Safe smart contract wallets and stuff like that. So I think in general, this is something to keep an eye on. I don't know how low this exchange balance is going to go. I think as the price rises and as we have better price action, exchange balances come down anyway, because people are taking kind of ETH off exchanges to put in cold storage to ride out the bull market. And, it kind of also signals to the market that exchanges are running out of ETH to sell. They're not running out of ETH to sell technically, but like it's a nice narrative that plays into the ecosystem, and people are like, oh, damn, ETH is going to go up like really fast now because there's not much ETH to sell. I mean, some of it is true, some of it's not, because that ETH can get moved back into exchanges just as quickly as it left, right? Nothing's really locked. I mean, the only real thing you could consider locked is really the ETH in ETH2. Most of it obviously is locked because there's no, two-way bridge. But still a very nice stat to kind of keep an eye on, I think. And I think there's a way to overlay price on this, but I don't have that handy right now. And obviously, like ETH's price has gone up a lot, and I don't know if there's correlation or causation, or it's just like happenstance of that happening, because there's a lot of things that kind of play into price rises. So yeah, still a good chart to keep an eye on, I think. So this is really cool, and something that I've been noticing a lot lately. So I put out a tweet today, and I'll read it out quickly. I said, very bullish on DeFi team / project cross collaboration in 2021. Apes together strong. Now, obviously, Apes together strong is a meme within kind of DeFi, and it just means that, like, I guess humans, evolved from apes, so we're stronger together, which I think is very true, right? It's very true, obviously in real life and in humanity in general, but it's very true within Ethereum and DeFi as well. So we haven't typically, up until this point, there hasn't been like a critical mass of this stuff happening. There has been kind of some cross collaboration, some kind of teams working together, but there hasn't been like a massive push with this sort of stuff. And I wrote about this in the Daily Gwei newsletter today, but I'll summarize it for you here. Basically, I said that Ethereum, the system or the ecosystem or whatever you want to call it, is like a game, right? It's a massive game. It's a massive multiplayer game where everyone's kind of playing in different things and doing different things. And within that game, you have skill trees. So the Ethereum skill tree is basically, very, very deep, right? We have different things that we can unlock as we go further down the skill tree. But you need to unlock prerequisites before you can unlock the deeper, more advanced skills. So if you think about it, you could say that to unlock DeFi, we had to unlock money Legos first. And those money Legos are stablecoins, decentralized exchanges, money markets, all those kind of primitives that we all, use and love today had to be unlocked before the DeFi kind of ecosystem could grow, right? Before we could do any of that fancy stuff. And, before we could unlock kind of money markets, for example, we needed stablecoins, right? We needed other assets on Ethereum that people actually wanted to use within these money markets. So, you can visualize that skill tree. I don't have it handy. I haven't made one or anything like that, but I think Bankless has one actually. But you can visualize that skill tree and say that, okay, now that we've unlocked DeFi as a whole, right? And we've unlocked all the prerequisites above DeFi, and we've unlocked kind of like this mass, kind of critical mass of builders coming into the ecosystem, and we've unlocked these teams that have grown, and are funded. What can we do with this? And what we can do with this is we can unlock the advanced skill of team / project cross collaboration. Now, what this means and kind of what I mean by this, I think some people took this to mean that I thought like cross kind of blockchain collaboration, Polkadot collaborating with Ethereum. And I didn't really mean it from that perspective. I meant it more from the perspective of, look at what's happening within the Yearn ecosystem, right? They have a bunch of projects under their umbrella like Cream and Cover and some other projects there. And they're using those synergies to kind of like create more value, right? So for example, with Yearn, they're using Cream's Iron Bank, which I've spoken about before. The Iron Bank is basically a system that allows the Yearn protocol and other protocols to borrow from Cream at zero collateral because the protocol knows that Yearn's good for it, right? So from that perspective, that kind of cross collaboration could only have happened with those prerequisites in place. It couldn't have happened unless we had all that there. And you can see this because a lot of this stuff hasn't really happened until like last maybe 3 or 4 months. A lot of this we've seen happening. Before that, it was very siloed. Yes, the different DeFi protocols spoke to each other, but the teams and the projects kind of worked in kind of isolation most of the time. From what I've noticed, but now they're working more collaboratively, much more collaboratively actually. There's tons of this going on. You can look at layer 2, for example, Synthetics working with Optimism to trial out their optimistic Ethereum tech and be a launch partner. Uniswap's also going on there, right? You can kind of see other layer 2 stuff like Diversify and Loopring teaming up to make working groups. There's just so much kind of collaboration going on right now. And that's simply because, not only because, but one of the reasons is that we've reached that point in that skill tree where we need to unlock that skill to go even deeper down. We can't go deeper down anymore, in my eyes, unless we start collaborating much more as a community. Because with cross collaboration comes better products, comes more value, right? And we create a much healthier ecosystem for people to be involved in. Because if everyone's like siloed off and kind of like, keeping to themselves. Yes, the protocols can talk to each other, but we kind of like are missing that magic that can happen when people kind of come together and build together. Now, I've been at a corporate company and worked there for quite a while, where I worked in this environment where pretty much like all the teams were siloed off each other, and it was really, really bad, right? Yes, the systems could talk to each other, but because the teams were siloed and because the teams didn't talk to each other, they didn't work collaboratively, they kind of, worked across each other, not with each other. Everything was a mess, right? So, internal corporations are like this, a lot of them, because of their size mainly, but also because, because of that, it creates just deeper silos. So Ethereum is big, right? Ethereum, if you look at the market cap, it's 170 billion. That's as big as a corporation, right? That's bigger than the corporation I worked for. The Ethereum ecosystem probably has tens of thousands of employees at this point. In terms of the companies building on top around it, probably hundreds of thousands. So it's as big as a massive corporation right now. So, but we still have that kind of, I guess, collaboration going on. We still have that open source nature because, by nature, everything's open source. So the fact that we can still work together, even though Ethereum is the size of a large corporation and is just continuing to grow, I think that is just like so bullish, right, for the ecosystem. Because if we can retain that and create that and kind of retain that skill and turn that into like another superpower that Ethereum has over other kind of platforms, over the traditional finance system and all that sort of stuff, we're going to just go so much further than we could have on our own. So as I said, Apes together strong. It's never been more important than it is right now. And I think that this is going to be a very nice theme that we're going to see play out in 2021. So Stani from AAVE teased this on Twitter today, and it was very, very popular. As you can see here, 3,000 likes, 565 retweets. So what this is, we don't know exactly what it is, but he's teasing that it is a credit card powered by AAVE's credit delegation. So you could imagine kind of like having this card that you can load up with funds borrowed via credit delegation on AAVE, and then use this for like everyday spending and stuff like that. Which, you could basically use this as a credit card, right? That's what it is. Like if we're dumbing it down to its kind of like simplest form, it's a credit card powered by AAVE's bank, I guess you could call it, right? Instead of a traditional kind of bank. Which, if they pull this off and they manage to do this, this is absolutely insanely massive and insanely bullish, because these are the products that are going to bring in the mass kind of users, right? The mass adoption, getting us from the early adopter phase to the early majority phase, and then into like the later majority phase. This is what's going to unlock that, or at least one of the major things that will. And I can't think of any other app right now that is better positioned to do this than AAVE. If you recall, AAVE actually got a banking license in Europe, I think in the UK, in London. So they're a regulated entity, and they've got this kind of license that I don't think any other DeFi app has at this point, which means they can do this stuff and not fall on the wrong side of regulators. Now, of course, I know what you're thinking. We shouldn't have to care about regulators, right? This is DeFi, but that's the ideal case, but that's not reality, right? We still have to live within the real world. We can't just say we'll live in cyberspace, right? Not yet, right? Maybe when we can upload our consciousness to a robot or something, or to a computer, maybe. But for now, we still have to live in meat space. We still have to eat, right? We still have to pay our groceries using your credit or debit cards. So having AAVE as your credit card and having this AAVE card as your credit card, and then basically being powered by the AAVE kind of money market / bank, is not only huge for AAVE. I think this is incredibly bullish for AAVE. I think that their protocol is just going to be worth like trillions one day, if I'm being honest. And I hold AAVE tokens, disclaimer, of course. But I hold AAVE tokens because I'm so bullish on the project. And I think that, this just unlocks, if we're talking about skill trees, this just unlocks another skill, a major skill for AAVE as a platform. So yeah, very curious to hear more about this. I think he wouldn't be teasing this if it wasn't coming, because he knows how much this kind of blows up on Twitter and within the ecosystem. So yeah, looking forward to seeing more about that. So Justin Drake put out this really interesting tweet today where and I'll read the tweet out. He says, economic security flippening at 100%. Ethereum's proof of stake has almost 3 million ETH staked, and at $1,550 per ETH, that is $4.5 billion of economic security. Bitcoin's proof of work has 150 million terahashes of hash rate right now at $30 per tera hash rate a second. That's $4.5 billion of economic security. Now, I don't know how accurate this is because it's much harder to measure the cost of proof of work than it is to measure the cost of proof of stake, right? Because there's a lot of different things that go into it. But I think he's just taking like a kind of average estimate here of what data he's got. So I'm just going to assume that it's accurate because Justin Drake is an Ethereum 2.0 researcher. He's very deep within Ethereum. He is not someone who just puts kind of this stuff out to get engagement or to farm engagement. He actually is very on the money with this sort of stuff. So this is crazy, right? If this is indeed accurate, this is just insane. We've already kind of overtaken the economic security that Bitcoin enjoys on Ethereum using proof of stake. And this isn't this isn't on Ethereum 1 either. This is on ETH2, a network that is really just securing itself right now because it's only the beacon chain. So, I mean, I was kind of blown away by this, and I kind of thought to myself that, you know, this is the power of proof of stake, where it's much easier to scale this than it is to scale like a proof of work network, for example, because with proof of work, you have to set up miners and data centers and kind of like get cheap electricity. You have to find the right spot. There's massive maintenance costs, right? All this sort of stuff. Whereas with proof of stake, you can just set it up. You can set up like a stake of 1 million ETH, right, on your home PC, right? If you had 1 million ETH to stake, and maybe not on your home PC, but like at least not in a data center. You could do it at your home, you know, potentially, right? So the kind of like scale there is a lot less, and the setup costs are a lot less, and the ongoing costs are a lot less. So, I mean, that's just insane, right? I'm counting down the days until we can get rid of proof of work on Ethereum because proof of stake is just so much better for so many different reasons. I mean, there is some trade-offs, but the trade-offs are worth it in my eyes for the fact that proof of stake is, I mean, I'm not going to go into why it's so much better right now, but I mean, I've written about this before in the Daily Gwei newsletter, but it just gives us so much more for so much less, you know, if you get what I mean by that. It gives us so much more security for so much less kind of, I guess, like effort that needs to go into it, or like cost and waste that needs to go into it. If you're a believer that, I guess, like proof of work is wasteful, then yeah, but that, I mean, it's a whole other argument. And this isn't to say that like, or to I guess like hate on Bitcoin or anything like that. Not at all, right? I know sometimes when I kind of like bash Bitcoin a little bit, people kind of comment and say that, you know, they can win together. And I believe that, right? I'm not an Ethereum maximalist. I do not think that Bitcoin is shit and Bitcoin is going to zero and it's going to die or anything like that. I think they can coexist. I just like Ethereum more, right? I like ETH ATH more. I like proof of stake more. That's why I'm in Ethereum. It's got nothing to do with whether I think, you know, kind of like Bitcoin is bad or whatever. I just think Ethereum is better. Simple as that. But anyway, I digress. I'm not going to bash anything here. I just thought this tweet was interesting, and I'm really liking that Justin Drake is putting out more of this interesting stuff lately. I mean, I've covered his tweets a few times on the Refuel now, and he's just really great. And I'll recommend the podcast he did with the Bankless guys again. I've recommended it a couple of times now, but I finished listening to it today. It's a long one. It was about 2 hours. And yeah, I mean, that whole podcast just got me really bullish on the future of Ethereum, so definitely go give that a listen. So $30 billion locked in DeFi today. So I was just browsing Defi Pulse randomly, and I was like, oh, 30 billion locked in DeFi? That's awesome, right? That's huge, but still a rounding error, if we're being honest. In traditional finance, it is $30 billion is just like not consequential yet. But what is consequential is the rate of growth. So you can see from the chart here, the rate of growth is still exponential, right? I mean, look at it. Just look at it. And for those listening, I mean, you can go to defipulse.com and view this for yourself, but I'm sure you've seen this chart a million times. And this is the USD growth. So if you actually look at the ETH growth as well, I mean, I've explained that the ETH locked in DeFi came down. You know, I've explained about the uni farming before, how, you know, we had a kind of a bit of a drop in the ETH locked in DeFi because that ETH kind of left the Uniswap protocol when the uni farming ended. But then we had like a massive amount of ETH going to ETH2, which kind of made up for that. And the actual ETH locked in DeFi has been trending back up lately, which is really positive to see. So yeah, just more growth in DeFi that we've all, you know, that we're all used to, but really great to see it continue here. So Xiaowei Wang from the Ethereum Foundation, from the ETH2 R&D team, put out this really cool tweet today. I thought it was kind of heartwarming to see this. So, you know, ETH broke a new all-time high, but a lot of the Ethereum kind of core developers were on a call to talk about, I guess, like Ethereum core development, right? ETH2 core teams online workshop Feb 2021. That's what it was called here. So there's a lot of people in this screenshot, as you can see, and some of them are cut off, unfortunately, by my camera here. But there are a lot of people on this call, and these are your core builders. These are your core ETH2 builders. Some of them are working on ETH1 as well, that are making this all a reality. And, they're just staring at charts all day, right? They're kind of here when ETH's hit an all-time high price. They're on this call talking about what is she saying here? Kate polynomial commitments. Like, if you don't know what that means, it's fine. That's like super technical stuff. I don't even know what it means. I've heard it a few times, but it's like probably moon math sort of stuff. So yeah, I just thought this was really heartwarming to see this kind of picture here. And for those of you, you probably recognize a fair few people in this picture here. You can't really see it here, but I actually saw DC Investor like towards the bottom left here, and I thought that was funny to see him on there. And I really like seeing him on there because he's been a core Ethereum community member for a while. For those of you who know him, and it's great to see him getting on this call. And I think he's kind of maybe doing some stuff with the core devs here, so that was cool to see as well. But yeah, really just heartwarming kind of photo that I wanted to share with you all. So the DeFi Pulse Index reached over 10,000 holders today. I work with Set Protocol. I'm an advisor to them, which kind of launched the DeFi Pulse Index with DeFi Pulse. And, this is really awesome to see. We've tried really hard to grow the DeFi Pulse Index over the last few months since we launched it. And, 10,000 unique DPI holders. This is unique addresses holding the API, or not unique people, of course, because an address doesn't equal a person. But still, this is an awesome number to see, and the growth has been phenomenal. I think many of you are probably familiar with the DeFi Pulse Index and what it is, all the benefits to it. I'm not going to show you on it now. But yeah, I thought this was really awesome, and it kind of validated a lot of the work that we've been doing at Set. DeFi Pulse has been doing, the Index Co-op community has been doing. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing this kind of continue to grow here. So Connext put out this tweet today about their Vector app that they're I guess Vector kind of tech that they're developing. I've spoken about it before. Vector is a kind of cross-chain technology that they're developing to kind of get layer 2s and side chains to talk to each other. So they have their first dApp that went live today that's leveraging this kind of instant cross-chain transfers. So Decentral Games is using Connext for seamless onboarding into Matic network for DAI and Mana. So I'm going to assume that, well, let's see what it says here. The Central Games was using Matic's POS bridge before Connext, which meant a 7-minute onboarding time and a 30-minute offboarding time. That's not ideal, right? Now it takes roughly as long as 2 Ethereum blocks to get into and out of your favorite metaverse casino. That's insane. That's 30 seconds, 2 Ethereum blocks. Loopring did this a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple weeks ago, where they did the 30-second withdrawals. So it's really great to see Connext even doing this as well. And this is, I guess, onboarding and offboarding between Ethereum and Matic, which is awesome. So yeah, really great to see that Connext's tech is in the wild now, is actually being used and is providing value. Going from 7 minutes and 30 minutes to, I guess, 30 seconds either way is a massive improvement, right? A dramatic improvement. And something that's just like gonna, I guess, improve the experience overall for people getting to layer 2 and getting out of layer 2, because that's definitely one of the things that people are worried about is the onboarding and offboarding times. The 30 seconds is faster than, way faster than it even going to like a centralized exchange, if you think of that as like a side chain. So yeah, really awesome to see that. All right, finally here, we had Balancer introduce their V2 today. So this is actually adding a ton of new features. So you can see here that the highlights include a protocol vault, gas efficiency, customizable AMM logic, asset managers, resilient oracles, a protocol fee, which obviously I think goes to BAL holders. And now they're diving deeper into here. So the way the protocol vault works is that the V2 features a single vault that holds and manages all assets added to Balancer pools. And what this means is that the AMM logic is separate from the token management and accounting, allowing for deeper liquidity and programmability, but it also allows for gas efficiency as well. So it features internal token balances, which are extremely useful for high frequency trader efficiency as well, which means that lower gas costs, saving significant kind of amounts on gas here. Custom AMM logic, so you can have basically a custom AMM, so you don't have to use just balances kind of AMM logic. You can use kind of any AMM logic, I think. At this point, you can use stable pools with soft peg tokens. I guess this is like Curve Finance's stable swap. Weighted pools for constant weight index funds, which they kind of already had, but using their existing AMM or the V1 AMM. So this one improves on it, I'm assuming. And smart pools for ongoing parameter changes. So you can, if I'm reading that right, it means you can actually change the AMM logic on the fly, which not sure kind of what's going on in the background there, but that sounds cool, right? Asset managers here they've got as well. So what these are trusted external smart contracts that can utilize the underlying tokens a pool has deposited into the protocol vault. This means tokens not being used for trading can be used in DeFi lending protocols. This is what I was talking about in, I think maybe just before, like another episode about the Iron Bank and how kind of like this capital efficiency narrative where there's so much locked capital within DeFi right now that we can make better use of. So this is really cool, right? And Balance is doing this now. I think every kind of protocol is going to have to do this, because if you have capital sitting on your system and it's considered dead capital because it's not doing anything, you're going to be left behind by, you know, protocols that do embrace this and do make their capital more efficient. So yeah. And as I said, like more resilient oracles here, which, I mean, I'm sure you know what that means. I'm not going to go through all of it, but protocol fees here. So the option for protocol fees can be turned on by BAL governance, and these fees would come from trades, vault withdrawals, and flash loans. So yeah, there's a bunch here. This is obviously a massive launch for Balancer. Congrats to them on the launch. You can read the full blog post here for a deeper dive into this. I think this is really, really cool. It's bringing a bunch of new features to DeFi that we haven't had before. It's playing into the capital efficiency narrative. You know, it's giving cash flows to BAL holders potentially, which is, you know, really great as well. So yeah, definitely go check this out. It'll be linked in the YouTube description along with everything else. All right, that's it for today's episode, everyone. Thank you again for listening and watching. Be sure to give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, join the Discord server, subscribe to the Daily Gwei newsletter, and I will catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.